Let's go, baby. Let's hit. Oh, I don't even have the recording. Let me. I have to switch to the soundboard, the wrong soundboard, but let's go. Let's go. Woo! Oh, hit the crowd too long. But yeah, it's Spurs versus everybody post game show. My name's Greg. Marshall is out on the town right now. I think at work or. Shout out to him though. His team won, so if everybody was interested, his team definitely won. So shout out to him. But then so did the Spurs. They won 135-123. The score is kind of not indicative of how close it got at times in this game. But the Spurs were able to answer at the right times, and especially at the end of the game where it kind of pushed this lead to make it look a lot longer. It was eventually like a 1 point game at one time. So a little scary, a little like yesterday, like, okay, like we're in a battle now. Like we probably should have won a lot deeper, but now we got a little bit battle. But it is what it is. You know, you're in a back to back. You're playing a rival, even though they're down after they've kind of like rebooted. You know, we should have to see Cooper Flag, Najee Marshall started to cook. He's always good against us. But yeah, we held it together enough of times. At first, like during the first part of the game, it felt good. Like Castle was like coming off the bench. They said it was a minutes restriction, so he came off the bench and was a lot of people wanted the all shooting lineup with Vassell, Harrison Barnes, and Champagny spacing the floor for Wemby and Fox, and that's what they got. And everybody was playing loose. Wemby looked like a different player. Like he looked like the evolved version of himself. Like he was out there just looking crazy, like shooting threes, just looking spry, bouncy, going behind the back with ease, not really making these weird turnovers. He was just looking good. And I'm like, wow, okay. And everybody was playing with energy. The ball was moving. People were making next level passes, not being selfish. I'm not saying they're selfish, a team or anything. I'm just saying like they were just, getting people the wide open shots that you would like to see. And it was good to see, man. It was good to see. You saw Keldon go off for like a couple points that he like a 12-pointer at one point, and you thought, okay, this is going to be maybe part 2 of last night where he went for 25. You're like, okay, he's going for 20 tonight at least. He looked that strong in the paint and going off. Who else? Castle came off the bench. He finished with like I think 18, 7, and 6 assists. Played well. I don't think it's a long-term thing. I think it's just a minutes restriction, but it's definitely interesting to see that first lineup. But like all things, the Spurs seem to take off their foot off the gas against teams, or the other teams just make. I mean, it's a game of runs too. Like this, teams are gonna make their runs, right? And you're gonna have to like it's too talented offensive league for teams not to make a run. So of course the Mavs made a run. They started to play with energy and the Spurs kind of play lackadaisical at times. They play like, they just lose focus like on both sides of the ball. And that's kind of been the problem with times with this team. But they were able to put it together at the end when it counted. And that's what you like to see. Castle with a big 3. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't really shy away from the big moments, and he'll go after it, whether he turns the ball over or he gets blocked or he makes a 3 or does whatever, hit a putback jam too. He's gonna live in the moment, man. He's gonna stride up to the moment. Wemby kind of faded a little bit towards the end. He was really hot in the beginning, not so hot in the end. But he still did enough to help us win. Let's see who else. Vassell was really bad in the beginning, but he got hot. He went 4 for 5 at one point after going for like 1 for 7 or something. Like it wasn't good at first, but then you see the bounce back, and that's a big thing for Vassell, because sometimes when we get Vassell, he doesn't do well. He kind of fades and doesn't really do anything. He doesn't really kind of just fades into the background and just becomes like a spot up shooter. It doesn't really just moves the ball. But this time you saw him bounce back, hit some shots, and we needed a lot of points because it was a close game at one time. So he went 4 for 5. That was good. Kellen still had a good game. He didn't play. He didn't get go off like he normally does, but he's always going to bring at least 12 points, 14 points. That's just the kind of season he's having. He's super efficient, and he's played by the best basketball of his career, just offensively and defensively. Like, he's not a slouch anymore on the defensive end either. So that's good to see. No Cornette. So we went with Keldon and Carter Bryant at center. Sometimes we didn't see anybody else. So we went that. That was kind of like, if we have Cornette, maybe we have more of a paint presence defensively. Maybe that we'd be able to get more stops. Maybe wouldn't be maybe we've been in a deeper blowout, but who knows? Let's see what else. Oh, it always gets you thinking, like, what if the Spurs were to get the top pick? Like, do we win a championship this year if we have Cooper Flag instead of Dylan Harper? No offense to Dylan Harper. I love Dylan Harper. It was Jersey, my dog. But you think about us needing that wing, right? That big wing. And Cooper Flag is that dude. Like, he's impressive. Like, he's an impressive guy. Like, he's going to be really good. It's good to see him out there, doing his thing. So the Mavs are not going to be down too long if they can go ahead and hit on another player or two. It should be easy to get a guard. I think guard's the most easiest position to fill out. The wing is the hardest. So to have Cooper Flag ready is a big up. And they can make they can turn it around pretty quickly if they are able to. It just depends on, but that's them, not us. So, so overall, it's a win. You like to see that some things you can take away, and you're like, some things you don't like, and still work in progress. I'm still trying to figure it all out. It's going to take more than this season, this playoffs, to figure it all out, and obviously they're going to do something in the offseason, and that's a big thing. I guess we can go ahead in the trade thing. Spurs didn't do anything, and that kind of pissed some people off. Some people are, saying, "Oh, that's okay," they'll do something in the offseason, or they'll just, they couldn't get anything done. And I'm gonna say, me and Marshall have been kind of disappointed. Like, we would probably say we were disappointed if they didn't make a move, like even a simple move. But I mean, it takes two to tango, right? And the Spurs have their list of players that they need. Like, I think everybody thinks it's easy just to plug in a player and say, like, oh, I just need this 4 and we're good to go or whatever. But they look at it analytically, like what the team is lacking. Like, in the fourth quarter, like, for instance, like, who performs well in the fourth quarter? Is there a player that fits that mold, that hits threes in the fourth quarter? Do they play well in transition? Do they guard well? All these, they have criteria of things that they need, and obviously the Spurs are going to go after probably somebody of notoriety to close out their starting lineup, and fix it all. Unless they're combo with Connor Bryant popping in and then going from there. But I think they're going to make a significant move. There's nobody really available. Like, now Utah got Jaren Jackson Jr. We didn't see that coming in. And we'll talk more about the trade deadline, like, later with Marshall, because I'll bounce his thoughts. I still got to look through all the trades and see what happened. It was a lot that went on, but look at Utah, and they're going to be ready to go pretty quickly if they can hit in the draft or make another trade. But so Laurie's probably not available, and that would take that, and that was feasibly you would have to put two guys together that the team probably is not comfortable trading. So they want to keep as much guys as they can, and who they want to keep. So that's another difficult aspect, is like, they're not willing to just get off certain guys just to get off, just to make the starting lineup. Even though I would do it personally, because I'm just that risky versus person. I'd make, I would sacrifice some players if it took to get the player that I really wanted. But the Spurs are not going to do that. They're trying to build chemistry. They believe in most of their players, and then the second seed. So still think the Spurs need a backup 4-5, someone you can put in. We talked about Bobby Portis. A lot of people boo-hooed that idea, but just somebody that can play the 4, possibly play small ball 5, so we don't have to see Keldon there anymore. We don't have to see Keldon at the 4 or the 5 anymore. He can scale down a little bit, so we can that's a need, a 4-5 versatile player. So that's going to be a one need, I think, personally. That can shoot, obviously, and then obviously your starting big shooter is another position that you're going to have to fill. There were really only 3 options, really: Laurie, Trey Murphy and MPJ. And according to the sources, you know how believable they are. They checked in on all of them and saw what the prices were, and they're like, just not going to pay that. So we're going to go the offseason and see if we can figure something out, see what we get lucky in the draft. Maybe we find our guy. But it's disappointing. It's not going to be like disappointing because I feel like we can really like make some damage like in this playoffs. I'm not really scared about. I think Peyton Watson went down with an injury now. I'm not really scared of the West too much, man, to make a run. So it'd been nice to go ahead and get into the finals or Western Conference Finals or have a chance to win it all if you make a move, right? If you make little moves, but it didn't happen. It's disappointing as a fan. As an analyst, you kind of understand, like I talked about, all the criteria it takes and all the things that the Spurs look at before they make a trade. They want to be smart about this, so they're going to let the season play out. They're going to obviously see what we already know is kind of like the missing pieces to what this team is, and they'll try to figure it out from there and how they can do it within a salary cap range. They still want to keep. They're going to have to repay Keldon. They're going to have to probably re-up Champagny. And they're going to let, Sohan and Kelly with the big trade pieces because they were expiring, and Jeremy's still a thought of, people think of, in theory, think of him as still a prospect. They have some worth, but apparently he has no value. A lot of people wanted the Spurs to attach picks to get off of him. That's been for 2 years, apparently. They've been trying to move him. So that's a bummer. It's a bummer they don't even play him, really, to be honest with you. I understand why they don't, because you can't afford to put another non-shooter out there. I'm just like, no matter how good the defense, and the defense wasn't even that great this year, to be honest with you. I think after that offseason injury, the experience, he just didn't look as strong. He wasn't moving well. He wasn't diagnosing plays correctly. So I understand why he didn't play, but in theory, he's like him and Carter Bryant together. Is what one of the archetypes of teams, that the way teams build is a connector, power forward, and a 3-and-D wing. Those archetypes are popular in the NBA when you're constructing a team. Obviously, the Spurs are going to probably go with the 3-and-D wing and the big shooter, kind of like Denver has. Reportedly, like a long time ago, when I had connection within the front office, they were going after Patrick Williams in the draft. It wasn't Devin Vassell. They had Patrick Williams high in the draft, and they tried to get into the top as he was rising. They were trying to get up to that line because they wanted to have Patrick Williams and Lucas Samanage kind of be the 3 and 4 of the future next to the, and then they start filling out the guard positions. Obviously they were attached to Lauri Markkanen. They love Lauri Markkanen. It's always been a player that they loved. So that's where I'm thinking they're going to go. Obviously now that I've heard that they wanted Bilal, Carter Bryant. They obviously took Carter Bryant, a big 3-and-D wing. And they're looking for a big shooter. So I think that's the archetype of players they're going to put in their forward positions. Is going to be the big 3-and-D wing and then the big shooter. So what that does to the rest of the team, does that move Fox out of the Spurs long term? Does that move Castle out of the Spurs long term? Does that move Vassell? Some of these guys roles are going to change, or they're going to be moved off. Sorry, I'm looking really tired. A long day. But we'll see what happens from there. I still love this team. Let's see what we got some comments. Let's see who's with us. Shout out to our guy, I guess I could say former Dallas Mavericks fan, but overall NBA fan still. Runs a great a geek show that I love. I'm a big geek myself, so I've been all tuned in to all the stuff. I gotta make sure I like and comment though, not just watch. But what else was I saying? Oh, trade deadline. Yeah. Yeah. Trade deadline. Spurs fans probably, mad that we're not going all in for it. Obviously, as a fan, you want to go all in and compete as much as possible. And it's to the point where you're so good, you can see clearly what the Spurs are missing. But you got to remember, they had a good offseason to bring in Fox and Cornette. That kind of changed the trajectory along with drafting Dylan Harper, and getting Carter Bryant, and everybody stepping up. So all in all, the Spurs are going to Spurs, the teams are going to team, and the fans are going to fan. So it makes interesting content. It makes interesting, topics to debate back and forth. Who's right, who's wrong. There is no really wrong or right answer. I mean, at least according to people, So we'll see. So the Spurs. What else to talk about? Any hot topics in Spurs land? Do I believe the Spurs should have made a trade? Yes, I do believe they should have found something. If not just like I said, a bench 4-5. I don't like Keldon playing the 4 and the 5, in case of emergencies. Like he can do it. He's big body for a reason, but having a 4-5 back there, obviously can't be Naz Reid, but somebody that can play the Kelly Olynyk is the archetype of player you would want. Kind of playmaker and 4-5 they can do different things, dribble, pass, shoot. Naz Reid obviously is a big, but there's just, I don't know what there was out there, like Yabusele, like they didn't want him. I thought it'd be an interesting gamble, but they didn't want the long-term money. They also don't want the long-term money, so they want to make sure they have their caps straight, so when they have to play their players and when they do make that move in the offseason, that they have the money to do it. So. But yeah, as a fan and as a person that thinks they can boogie this year in the playoffs, yeah, I would have loved them to make a move for sure. And I know Marshall was like, just make a move, but just like go all in. We talked about this a lot. Like Wemby doesn't have all these. You can't just pencil him in for 20 years. Like the history of big man is not that big. You got to go and you got to go. And the Spurs, for the most part, are going all in. They got Fox, they got Cornette. Luckily, Vassell and Keldon stepped into their roles nicely. They got Steph Castle took a leap defensively and offensively. So all in all, Spurs should be another. I just enjoying the season, man, for what it is. I'm just gonna go ahead and temper expectations. I'm not gonna have. Well, I'm not gonna have any expectations. Just making the playoffs, being the top 2 seed. I mean, that's beautiful. But the Spurs are gonna have to, because the West gets better and better. Yeah. Marshall is all about. You hear Marshall, he's gonna say bruising center, and then he'll bring up Jason Duran, who's like 6'9", but he's physical. I give Duran credit. He's a physical guy at 6'9", but yeah, he definitely wants somebody to put next to Wemby to extend his career. Doesn't want to take him an extra pounding, and that makes sense. That's what we did for Tim Duncan, right? We made sure that he didn't take an unnecessary punishment and extended his career long term. But it's one of those things. I think it's more like David Robinson, where he just had to grow into his body, and he's gonna be okay. He's an athletic, freak like David was. David was, if you ever see young David in highlights, like, sheesh. That guy was crazy. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got to take care of your big man. You got to take care of. You got to help. I get where Marshall's coming from. It's hard because a lot of people believe in Wemby's ability to be a help defender, and he can develop into it for sure and to get better at it. I just don't think it's as natural. Like, it doesn't help the team the most, right? Having a big that can move in space and deter the rim. It's like almost like having Bam and Rudy Gobert combined on defense at center. And so I think his natural, I think it's better and he can space the floor. So that opens the floor up more for everybody. So I think he's best situated at the 5, but I'm not mad at people that think I think if we had a playmaking 5 that you can run DHO handoffs with, kind of like the league is going to, I don't want to say this is a bonus, but we had Jakob Poeltl. You see do it with Cornette a little bit, but if you had a center that could set picks, dive to the rim, facilitate from the high post, do those. I think it would help with the ball movement too. The ball wouldn't stick. It wouldn't be awkward, especially when you're having multiple guards out there. You got to make sure that the ball is moving. So I definitely think that a center could, and I preached that before, in a couple of years, hey, if you got a center, you know, that would help Devin Vassell get to his mid-range game. That would help Wimby, obviously, you know, not have to set screens and roll to the basket. He can go ahead and it wouldn't help necessarily with spacing, but it would help him grab rebounding too. Give rebounding help. If he has to guard a physical center, he can go ahead and put that guy on him. You can let him roam a little bit. We've seen Porzingis do it a little bit. You know, like sometimes he was in Washington, he played the 4, and sometimes he played the 5, and sometimes he was just roaming off of a guard that couldn't shoot. So you could do different things with him for sure. I think it's about when you have a hybrid player, you got to kind of put hybrid players around him a little bit to make this the most dynamic offense. I mean, defense and offense, you can make it. So it'd be interesting what they ultimately settle on at the 4 position. But you want to have options. You want to have a big wing. Like you want to be able to go, you know, I don't want to say have Jason Tatum because no one has Jason Tatum, but you know, you want to have a big wing like Jason Tatum or something to play at the 4 at times. Sometimes you want to have a playmaking 4, like, you know, a connector like Scotty, Jalen Johnson, even Julius Randle at some points is a little bit like that. You want to be able to go double big. You can go Wimby double big. It's just about versatility, about having a bunch of different lineups to, because you never know what you're going to need in the playoffs. Like you can match up, like, and a lot of times you think going big against big works, but sometimes going small against big works. Like that's the secret. So it's all about having different lineups ready for the playoffs. So, but all in all, good fun win. Good to see Cooper Flag play well. I think we play the Mavs again next game. Maybe we can have y'all on. I don't know if you don't still want to talk. But let's see. I hate when my computer doesn't come up with what I need it to, which is always fun. Let's see. Or I would like to have some people on talk about the trade deadline too. That'd be fun. I know a lot of things happen. See schedule, Mavs. See Prime the 7th. Okay, 5 p.m. All right. Super Bowl's coming up too. Can't wait to see the Super Bowl on Sunday. Off topic. Figure out who I'm going to bet on. Yeah, Dallas, Los Angeles, Golden State. That should be a fun little run. We'll see what happens in 2 days. What else do I need to talk about? That's about it. That's about it for this episode. Thank you for all coming through. Marshall will be back off hiatus on Monday, I believe. Because Monday through Wednesday is kind of his off days, so he can do stuff. So maybe we can squeeze him on the 7th. We'll see. But make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Drop a like, drop a comment. It helps. Definitely search on all social media that Spurs is everybody. And I guess we'll catch y'all later. Peace.